Hey everybody, welcome to the hormones class. I'm happy that you're able to see this information. I really love this topic. It has changed my life significantly, and I want you to know that this information is not for menopausal women exclusively. This is going to be a class that's going to help you with all the people in your family with all of their hormone issues, because the reproductive system of our hormones is just such a small sliver of the amount of hormones in our body. And really what we're going to focus on is how the environment we live in and the food that we eat and the stress that we experience really affects our overall hormone balance. So this is going to be a class for my 11-year-old daughter, and this is going to be a class for my mom, and information very relevant for my husband and myself. So men, women, all ages. I'm excited to get started here. So let me get this presentation rolling here. All right, here we go. So first we're going to start out with, what are hormones? Hormones are messengers in our body. They are a chemical that is a transporter of signals from one area of our body to another. So when we have our brain or organs that want to send a message to affect another part of our body, they're going to use a hormone to do it. So there's lots and lots and lots of different hormones that run around our body all day long, impacting how we use fuel, impacting how we react to temperature differences and activity differences and all of the things that happen throughout our body all day long. One of the things we're also going to look very closely at too is how other hormones affect each other. So if one hormone is off balance, what that actually does to all of the other areas of our body. So here's the endocrine system. The endocrine system is the kind of general name for all of the glands in our body that release hormones, or are kind of their primary function is to deal with hormones. We're not going to talk about all of these, but we will talk about most of them. So you'll see the thyroid here is in your neck. The adrenals sit on top of your kidneys. The pancreas, which actually we're not going to go in depth about, but most people know about that for blood sugar reasons. And then if I can get this out of your way a little bit, you'll see the reproductive organs of both men and women. So it talks here about the fact that hormones are so integral to all of the processes of our body, including heart rate and digestion and how our body uses minerals, which of course have to do with our bones, just everything to keep our body running well. So how do you know if you are hormone deficient or if your hormones are out of balance? A lot of people will go and get a blood test done. However, blood tests will only check the free hormones in the blood serum, and they won't be able to account for all of those hormones that are bound to protein, which unfortunately, or I guess fortunately, is more than 90%. Proteins help to transport hormones, and so it's not going to give you the most accurate picture to get a blood test. However, a better way of getting a clear picture, if you want one, of your hormone status is to go ahead and get a saliva test. And this is can be done at your physician's office if they're willing to do a saliva test instead of a blood test. Okay, so we're going to start with the adrenals. The adrenals are very foundational to almost every function of our body. They produce over 50 hormones, and we're going to talk about, obviously not all of them, but some of the major players. We're going to look here at the fact that hormones that are manufactured and sent out from the adrenals help a lot with our blood sugar and how our body uses energy. It's also going to talk a lot about stress and how the adrenals function very closely with helping our body deal with stress. They also help with our blood pressure, and they do that, remember they sit on top of the kidneys, and so they do that by keeping a close eye and functioning to either have the body hold on to fluid or release fluid. And then, of course, the sex hormones of estrogen and testosterone. And we're going to look at adrenaline. If we remember, adrenaline is that fight or flight response. It's that hormone that helps our body react to stress, and also then converting glycogen to glucose. So taking stored sugar and using it for whatever moment we're in where we're requiring sugar. Okay, now I know that this slide is wordy and breaks all of the rules of a good presentation. However, I want you guys who are visual learners to be able to have these words in front of you and not just hear them from me. So the major three from the adrenals are cortisol, adrenaline, and progesterone. Remember that the adrenals function as the body's shock absorbers. So what that means is that when our body is under stress, our adrenals help to balance us out. So try to bring that stress response into a normal level so that our body is able to continue to function despite the stress that we're under. When our ancestors foraged for food, one of the things that would happen to them is if they were, picking berries or, picking something off of a tree or a bush or digging something up from the ground to eat, a root, if danger came their way, they had to fight or flight. And so the body would react to that situation and say, I don't know how long this person is going to require to fight or flight, but during that time, they're not going to be able to stop for food. So what I'm going to do as a body under stress is I'm going to store fat. I'm going to store up energy because I don't know when the next time is going to be that I'm going to be able to get food. However, the world that we live in now is very different, right? We can stop at, there's food everywhere. Actually, there's food everywhere. So the stress that we're under is different. It's a chronic stress. It's a, how am I going to pay the bills? It's a relational stress and environmental stress. And so the problem with that is our adrenals don't get a break. And so our adrenals just kind of continue to function under this chronic stress, and eventually they give out. Remember that they function for almost every area of the body with almost 50 hormones. So if we lose good function of the adrenals, we're going to be in trouble. So point number 4 here talks about how the adrenals also contribute to premenopausal and postmenopausal hormones. So if the adrenals are not functioning properly, it will affect many other areas of the body, including those hormones that we think about when we talk about hormone imbalance. Cortisol is the hormone that is going to store belly fat under stress. And it's going to continue to be produced by the adrenals if we are under chronic stress. Progesterone is a hormone that is the raw material for cortisol. And so our adrenals will steal progesterone from other areas of our body to help out the adrenals the best they can when they are in this kind of overworked state. When we are low on progesterone, because it's being diverted to the adrenals, it will have significant effects to our kind of baseline hormone imbalance. And so when we think of hormone imbalance, progesterone plays a huge part in that. And I want you to notice here that it's actually the adrenals, in this case, they are the root cause, the root problem. And so getting levels back, hormone levels back, and trying to fill holes may not be the best way to go about solving that problem. We're going to talk also to the men here and just say that progesterone is also the raw material for testosterone. So having a low testosterone level, perhaps due to overworked adrenals, is going to affect testosterone levels overall in the body. And women, we also have testosterone, so it will affect us as well. Okay, so how are we going to support healthy adrenals? Well, there's lots of different ways. So number 1, we're going to do what we can to eat foods that will heal our body and not harm our body. It's absolutely true that foods really go into one of those 2 categories, either good or bad. and focusing on keeping our body healthy by putting healthy stuff in it is going to be a significant factor. Interestingly enough, I think, when we're in this chronically stressed and exhausted state, we reach for food that's easy, right? And it's a lot of times food that's easy, that's food that's not good for us. So if we can make healthy food easy choices, that's going to help significantly. So in doing that, avoid sugar, processed foods, and foods that contain toxins, whether those are herbicides, pesticides, chemicals, just genetically modified chemicals, fake sugars, things like that. Okay, so get your carbs from vegetables and not grains. This was a light bulb moment for me because I had no idea that vegetables actually could serve as carbohydrates for my body. But it turns out that you can really take grains if they don't agree with your body. You can take grains out and swap those out for vegetables and get your carbohydrates that way. Also, limiting your caffeine intake is going to help significantly with just reducing that stress on the body and kind of lowering the speed at which your internal organs in your body runs at. Okay, so we want to supplement our nutrition, and we want to make sure that we give our adrenals all of the building blocks that they need to function well. Specifically, vitamins B, C, and D, and zinc and magnesium. I think here in Michigan, get some good D in the summer for about 3 months, but that leaves us with 9 months of not a lot of good vitamin D. So Lifelong Vitality is an absolute excellent product for supplementation, not only for your entire body, but in this case, specifically your adrenals. It's a supplementation pack of 3 different products from doTERRA, and they're plant-based, they're bioavailable, and you will absolutely feel the difference in how happy and calm your body can be with good nutrition. Okay, and then just reducing your stress throughout the day. So I like to use, let's see, what of that list? I love citrus oils to help reduce feelings of worry and anxious feelings throughout the day. I also love vetiver to help me stay calm. And so I will use those in the morning when I get up to start my day out right, but I'll also have them on my desk, in my car, in my pocket, for when I need them throughout the day. I have a friend, Natalie McGill, you're out there somewhere, and she called me up one day, and she had blown a tire and just kind of one thing after another in her day, and she said, but I got out my frankincense and I just started huffing that bottle of frankincense, and it totally changed how I reacted and how my body reacted to that stress. So I had to laugh that she got that frankincense right in her pocket and whipped it out when she blew a tire. Smart girl, that one. And then exercise. So sometimes you're going to need oils like Motivate to just get you off of the couch to exercise if you're like me some days. And then using those oils to help with recovery. So Deep Blue Oil, Deep Blue Rub, awesome to help with those sore muscles so that you actually want to do it again tomorrow. And then sleep oils. An excellent way to reduce stress is just to get enough sleep. So that's not only getting the right amount of sleep, but it's getting good quality sleep. So you can use oils to help you fall asleep. You can use oils to help you stay asleep. You can even use oils like cedarwood to help you get a real deep, solid sleep. If you're dreaming, not nightmares, but if you're dreaming kind of weird neutral dreams, that's a really good sign that you're getting into your REM cycle of sleep, and that is a good thing. Okay, so moving on from the adrenals to the thyroid, we're actually going to talk about how these two are attached. Thyroid hormones help all of your organs work well, and so it's important that your thyroid is healthy. One of the major things that the thyroid does is it helps your body use food for energy. And so if your thyroid isn't functioning well, that's going to also be dysfunctional, how your body uses energy. So the thyroid and adrenals are related because the thyroid may turn down its activity and slow your metabolism in order to help reverse adrenal fatigue or adrenal overdrive. So if your adrenals are working too hard and they're getting taxed, then your thyroid can help with that by turning down its activity, which of course leads to a cascading effect of other organs in your body. And then if your body is running low on progesterone, what your thyroid can do is it can have its receptor sites blocked, so that it won't function well if your progesterone and estrogen levels are imbalanced. So a lot of different things are in play here, and notice that one is always going to affect lots of other things. So two things. Finding one thing to do will be helpful, and also trying to get to the root cause of what's going on in your hormones and kind of fixing that situation can have a significant effect on all the areas of your body. Okay, so if you're somebody who struggles with a dysfunctional thyroid, and you need to support healthy function of that endocrine gland, you can take these oils, clove, myrrh, frankincense, and lemongrass, and you can put them on your thyroid area, so right on your neck, on the either side, and the bottoms of your feet 3 times a day. And then Zendocrine oil, so Zendocrine, endocrine, you can see the name there. So Zendocrine oil and also Zendocrine detoxification complex, which are doTERRA products, are excellent for daily thyroid support as well. Okay, so we're going to move on to estrogen and progesterone. So in a woman who is in her childbearing years, this is what that estrogen and progesterone cycle are going to look like. So you can see that when ovulation occurs, your estrogen level is going to peak, and then it's going to sharply drop. And then shortly after that, your progesterone levels are going to increase. I have found that doTERRA absolutely came to the rescue for me in this situation. So I turn into a different person after my estrogen levels drop. I am very hormone sensitive. And so when my estrogen levels drop, it affects a lot of areas of my life. It affects my mood. It affects my reasoning. It affects how long or short my fuse is with my family and at work. And so I went to lots of different options trying to be the same person every day of the month and not have this kind of weird person come out after I ovulate. So we'll talk about what helped me, but I noticed a change in my hormone levels and how that affected the person that I am very quickly using some doTERRA products. So let's talk a little bit more about estrogen. Estrogen has a lot of different jobs in the body aside from reproductive ones. And so you'll see here in the brain, estrogen levels affect your sleep, your mood, your memory, your libido, and things like learning and attention span. So it's very important to have appropriate levels of estrogen in your body. And you can see here that we know as we age, our estrogen levels drop, right? That's a natural thing that happens in our body as we move out of our childbearing years. And that is going to affect how our skin looks, and that's going to affect cholesterol levels in our body, and it's also going to affect plaque formation on our blood vessel walls, all things that are super important to maintaining a healthy body. So progesterone, we talked about the adrenals and the thyroid using progesterone, but this is actually primarily made in the ovaries. It's also made, like we said, in the adrenal glands, in the peripheral nerves, and also in the brain. This is going to exert a calming and sedating effect over our body. Healthy levels of progesterone have a calming effect, right? Isn't that interesting? Since our body uses progesterone to help our adrenals react to stress. And so progesterone wants our body to be stress-free. It also helps improve our sleep. We talked about that with stress. And it can be protective against seizures, a calming effect in the brain. It's also a diuretic, and it helps the pancreas and the thyroid do its functions as well. So progesterone is a huge deal in the body. Again, it protects the bones and the cardiovascular system, and it can help increase the libido. As we said earlier, progesterone is used to make testosterone. So that is for the men in the group, that you know that this information applies to you as well. Okay, so back to estrogen. We're going to talk about a few different types. So endogenous, anytime you hear the word endogenous, that is something that is created by our body and is naturally fluctuating, not only throughout the course of a month, but also throughout the course of your lifetime. And that is normal and that is healthy. So exogenous means that it comes from outside of our body. And in relation to estrogen, there's two types of exogenous estrogen. And so one is considered a phytoestrogen. This is a dietary version, if you will, and it's not a true estrogen. However, chemically, it's similar enough to estrogen that the receptor sites will recognize it as estrogen, and it can function like estrogen in our body. It's considered a cleanser of receptor sites, and in their natural state, so when phytoestrogens are in the intact plant, they act as a natural defense against herbivores. So there's actually a purpose for them in their natural state. Okay, so now moving on to xenoestrogens or foreign estrogens. These can either be synthetic or natural chemical compounds. However, like the phytoestrogens, they're also structurally similar to estrogen, but they're going to function differently when they are attached to those receptor sites. They're going to be what's called false messengers, and they're actually going to interfere with normal functioning in our body. So when I think of xenoestrogens, I think of estrogen mimicking compounds. You kind of hear that word maybe if you're looking into what kind of cosmetics should I put on my body? What chemicals in this bottle of whatever that I have is safe to use, and maybe what's not so safe to use. What they're going to do, these xenoestrogens, is they're going to be 100 to up to 1,000 times more potent than our natural estrogen. And so you can see that it's going to trick our body into thinking that it has very high levels of estrogen, and that is not going to be a healthy thing in our body. Okay, so how do we avoid these xenoestrogens? Whoops, sorry about that. So how do we go about avoiding or eliminating the xenoestrogens that are already in our body? So number one, we want to avoid plastics. I think we have, for lots of years, if you're my age or older, have spent lots of time microwaving plastics before we knew that this was a bad thing. Whether that's a plastic container, whether that's eating out of hot food out of styrofoam or hot liquid out of styrofoam, or saran wrap. That's something that's going to allow plastics to be ingested in our food and into our body. And these plastics can wreak havoc with our hormone system. So we want to avoid them to the best that we can. Now, my grandmother, who lived through the Depression, thought that plastic was just one of the most amazing inventions because you had another option of storing things, right? And so we use plastics to store cold things in a lot. We just avoid heating them. Okay, so avoid there's lists of things that you can find in cosmetics that you just want to avoid because they can act as a foreign type estrogen in our body in a way that is not healthy. I think parabens and phthalates are some of the most common ones. You can absolutely find some really great lists of chemicals to avoid online. So we use homemade cleaners. If you are using a cleaner and you have to open a window, you're touching things and you're inhaling things that are not meant to be in our body. So use those homemade cleaners when you can. Eat local, organic, and raw. My family is not perfect at this by any means. However, we are aware of when this is a priority and how to prioritize eating things that are organic and raw. Avoid GMO products. This is a new one for me, and I'm learning that they are everywhere. So, especially the GMO unfermented soy products, and there's a list here of what they may be called, but they are everywhere. And so be aware of finding foods that are non-GMO. We want to heal candida in our body because candida in our GI tract can actually produce xenoestrogens. So use your GX Assist and your PB Assist to heal your GI tract so that it's not a further source of xenoestrogens in your body. We want to be able to block our estrogen receptor sites with a natural, non-GMO fermented soy. I think one of the things we hear a lot is avoid soy, especially if you have an estrogen-based reason to avoid soy. However, soy can be very, very helpful to our body to balance our hormones and to protect us from toxic chemicals if we are using, like I said, a non-GMO fermented soy. And then we want to maintain a healthy GI tract for xenoestrogen elimination. Once those xenoestrogens are metabolized and we're able to excrete them, we want to make sure that that happens and that happens well. So make sure that you have a healthy GI tract in order to get those things out. Okay, so a bit of a review. Our cells can interact with three things. They can interact with our hormones, endogenous. They can interact with plant hormones or xenohormones. The first choice always is endogenous. We want to make sure that we have enough of our own hormones, which we'll talk about how we can create an ideal environment for our body to create natural hormones. And then we also want to make sure that we avoid the xenoestrogens because that's going to be the harmful choice for our organs and our cells to be able to interact with those xenohormones. We want to avoid that. So we do have a limited ability, but we do have an ability to create our own hormones. We want to support the best scenario for that. And then we also want to be able to block receptor sites with phytoestrogen. So you can see a little picture here of what receptors look like. You can see here on the left that this cell only accepts round hormones, right? So maybe in this case, this is estrogen and not progesterone. So maybe that progesterone comes along and this cell says, nope, I only want estrogen. However, note that that round circle that wants to interact with that receptor, that can be our hormones, a plant hormone, or a xenohormone. And we have a limited amount in our body, right? So as we age, our body is going to create less hormones. And so we still have all these receptors around. And so say if we have 10 receptors and we have 3 estrogen floating around in our body, those 7 other receptors are going to interact with something. And we can provide our body with the option of either the phytoestrogen, which is going to be more similar to our own estrogen, or it will interact with xenohormones, which can exert a very, very strong effect on that cell and therefore that organ and therefore our entire body if it's interacting with the wrong thing. Okay, so here's how I give you a little picture so you can understand this better. So in our body, we have best friends, we have heroes, and we have bullies. And this is just like the playground. So here's a picture of these kids who are all friends, and they're all playing on this merry-go-round, right? And the cool thing is there's 4 of them. And so they all get a turn to push. They all get a turn to ride on the merry-go-round. And what's important is that they all agree on the speed at which this merry-go-round is going to go. So they're gonna go at a perfect speed for having fun, but not too fast that anybody's gonna get sick. Okay, so these are like your endogenous hormones. This is the perfect level of estrogen in your body so that everybody's happy. Everybody's running at the right speed and everybody's doing well. These are your best friends in your body. And this is xenohormones. So xenohormones are the bullies of the playground. These are the kids who come along and they decide that they're bigger and they're meaner and they're going to be a bully and they're going to push that merry-go-round as fast as they can. And look at everyone in this picture. They're crying, they're nauseous. No one's having fun anymore on this playground because the xenohormones are in town and they are bullying the good kids of the playground, okay? So when we allow these xenohormones to have access to these receptors in our body, they're gonna act like bullies and they're gonna prevent proper function. So here's our best option. The best option is our phytoestrogen. And these are the heroes of the playground. So you can see in this picture that you've got some kids on the merry-go-round. However, maybe there's not enough of them today. Maybe 2 of the friends couldn't come. And so we need someone to help us out. We need someone to keep that merry-go-round going at that speed that we like. And in this situation, it's that teacher, it's that preschool teacher, it's that adult who comes around and they fill in the gaps. So they help to push that merry-go-round, but they make sure that those bullies or those xenoestrogens cannot have access to that merry-go-round. So they're helping the merry-go-round to go at a proper speed, and they're also protecting it from harm. All right, so now we get a chance to talk about some really great doTERRA products that I love. One is called Claricalm. Claricalm is a blend of essential oils that actually contain phytoestrogens, which I find fascinating. I had no idea that some essential oils can contain phytoestrogens. So they're going to support normal endocrine health in the body. And so you're going to see a list here of the oils contained in Claricalm, and you're going to apply these to the back of the neck, across the abdomen, and below the ankles. So one of the reasons that women going through menopause or premenopause enjoy this oil is because it helps to fill in those gaps as their hormone levels are naturally decreasing. The other thing that I love about Claricalm personally is it has those oils that release muscle tension, and so I like to use that when I'm struggling with painful cramps during my cycle. And so you can apply this to the back of your neck, across your abdomen, and you can also put it below your ankles. And that's kind of an odd spot, right in that area between your Achilles tendon and your ankle bone. But the reason that is existing is because that is the reflex point to your uterus. So that works really well as a reflex point application. All right, so going back to adrenals, remember we want to decrease adrenaline and cortisol response to stress. So rose and patchouli are excellent to decrease your adrenaline for that fight or flight response. Both of those are in Whisper. And then some other options is to support your adrenals with lavender, serenity, balance, and bergamot, and just rubbing them over your adrenal glands, which is right above your kidneys. I do want to make sure that you know to be careful with the bergamot during the summertime. If you have thin clothing on, that there can be a UV reaction there. And so just be aware of that photosensitivity. If you live in Michigan and 9 months of the year, you don't have that problem. And then also apply it to the bones behind the ears and again below the ankles. I, quite honestly, with some of these oils, Whisper, I like to just put it over my chest to kind of have that natural diffusion throughout the day, because I like to inhale those for that natural stress reduction throughout the day. And then progesterone. Remember how we talked about progesterone levels being low and how you need to have healthy levels of progesterone in your body for all of those different areas of your body to function, so you can make hormones and you can have healthy adrenals. So grapefruit is something that you can use. You can put it in a capsule, you can put it in water or under your tongue daily. I love to put it in water, specifically with cassia. I love cassia and grapefruit together. Cassia is kind of a sweeter, less spicy version of cinnamon. Okay, phytoestrogen. So when I said that there was something that came along that completely changed a lot of things for me, this was it. It was phytoestrogen. This is what we talked about, a non-GMO fermented soy. So it's a plant-based phytoestrogen. It's going to help fill in those gaps where your hormones need balancing out. It also has flax, and so flax is going to help your body not only metabolize, but get rid of the xenoestrogens, excrete them out of your body. So I love that Dr. Hill says that with phytoestrogen, it's adaptive, and so we don't necessarily have to know what our hormone levels are, whether they're high or low, or what exactly is going on, but phytoestrogen can help fill in the gaps and help regulate the body's hormones. So one of the things that Dr. Hill said when he was in town this spring is, if you're on phytoestrogen, you need to be on the bone nutrient complex as well. And my head spun around because I had never heard that before. So I did some research and I found out, what is it about the bone nutrient complex that helps to regulate and balance out your hormones? So bone nutrient complex is just that. It's a collection of minerals and vitamins that are going to help support healthy bone density in both men and women of all ages. This, though, works alongside the phytoestrogen to balance out your hormones, and I'm going to show you why. So researchers have found that certain things like vitamin C and vitamin D have a huge impact on hormones. So, for example, vitamin C stimulates the regeneration or the formation of estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone. Remember, I said that your ideal situation is to have enough of your own hormones, enough endogenous hormones that they fill in all the receptors, right? I mean, that is the perfect scenario to have all of your friends with you on that merry-go-round. So bone nutrient complex, that vitamin C and that vitamin D, will help your body create those hormones naturally. Vitamin D has been shown to be significant in healthy cells. And so in making sure that your cells remain healthy. And then dealing with your ovaries, your reproductive organs, vitamin D, again, can make sure that those organs function in a way that is appropriate and healthy and normal. Okay, so the best way to purchase is going to be through the Loyalty Rewards program. The Loyalty Rewards program is an option for you in doTERRA. You don't have to use it, but it is absolutely the most intelligent way to buy. Okay, so the reason that I mentioned Loyalty Rewards program is because through the Loyalty Rewards program only, you can get something that's called a Women's Health Kit. And that is phytoestrogen, bone nutrient complex, and the clary calm oil for $69.50. You can purchase them separately through a standard order, but you're going to get a reduced cost by purchasing them together through the Loyalty Rewards program. Okay, well, I just want to say thank you for joining us. I hope that that information was helpful to you. I hope that you will consider doing some natural things to balance out your hormones. Here is a list of some other education classes that we do. If you're interested in any one of these, please leave me a comment. I would be happy to get that information out to you. And have a great day. Happy oiling. I will talk to you all later.